But something else changed too. Something strange. Something worrying. One night, while Evan told her a story, the little alien suddenly tensed. Her glow flickered. Her head turned sharply toward the forest window. Evan stopped speaking. "Is something out there?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, but her small hands shook. She pressed her back against the wall, terrified. Evan rushed to the window and looked outside. At first, he saw nothing, just darkness and trees. But then he noticed it. A bright blue light flashed between the trees, quick and silent. Not like a flashlight. Not like any human machine. The light moved in a straight line, scanning the ground, almost like it was searching for something or someone. Evan's heart tightened. "Are they looking for you?" he whispered. The alien child closed her eyes and nodded. That single gesture changed everything. Evan turned off the lamp and sat beside her, lowering his voice. "Don't worry. You're safe here." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure. The forest had never looked dangerous before. Tonight, it looked alive with threats. Over the next few nights, the strange signs grew stronger. Evan began noticing distant humming sounds late at night, flashes of blue or red lights between trees, shadows moving in ways that didn't look human, the ground shaking slightly, as if heavy machines were nearby. Each time these things happened, the tiny alien grew more panicked. She stayed close to Evan, sometimes hiding behind him like a frightened child. She trusted him completely now. That trust made Evan feel both honored and scared. He wasn't trained to protect anyone, let alone an alien child running from something unknown and powerful. One evening, she arrived later than usual. When she climbed through the window, her glow was almost gone. Her breaths were short and fast. Her small feet were muddy, as if she had run for a long time. Evan knelt in front of her. "Lyra, what happened?" He had started calling her Lyra, a gentle name that felt right for her. She never corrected him. Lyra shook her head weakly and pointed toward the forest. Then she pointed to herself. Then she clasped her hands together tightly, like someone saying, "Danger." "They're getting closer," Evan said quietly. She nodded again. Evan felt a cold fear in his stomach. If they were getting closer, it meant she might not have many safe nights left. He needed to help her. But how? He was only one human. She came from a place he knew nothing about. And whoever was chasing her had technology far beyond anything on Earth. But when he looked at Lyra, small, trembling, fighting tears, he knew something for sure. He would not abandon her. That night, he decided to do something different. Instead of telling a story right away, he brought a blanket and gently placed it around her. She looked surprised, then moved closer to him, like a scared kitten seeking comfort. "For now," Evan whispered, "my job is to keep you calm." He began a soft story, one about a young bird learning to fly even while storms chased it. As he spoke, Lyra's glow returned, little by little. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her first real sign of affection. Evan froze for a moment, surprised by how natural it felt. She trusted him more deeply every day. But later that night, after she left, Evan saw something terrifying. A tall shape moved between the trees. It wasn't human. Its outline was too narrow, too long, too smooth. And on its head, a bright blue scanner blinked, the same scanner that appeared on the first night. It paused. It turned toward Evan's house, and it scanned the ground near his window. Evan stepped away from the glass quickly, heart pounding. They were close. Too close. And they knew Lyra had been here. Evan swallowed hard. This wasn't just a visit from a lonely alien child anymore. This was the beginning of a chase. A chase where he, a simple human, had become her only protector. And he knew the nights ahead would not be peaceful. They would be dangerous. Very dangerous. Evan barely slept after seeing the tall, unknown figure in the forest, scanning near his window. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined it stepping out of the shadows, catching Lyra, taking her away. He did not know who the creature was or what it wanted, but its presence felt wrong, cold, and dangerous. The next evening came with heavy clouds and a quiet wind. Evan stayed near the window, waiting for her. He checked the forest every few minutes. No lights, no shadows, no movement. But he did not relax. His heart felt heavy with worry. Then finally he heard it. A soft, weak tapping. He rushed to the window and opened it quickly. Lyra stood there, but she looked worse than ever. Her glow was almost gone, flickering like a dying candle. Her small arms were scratched. Her breathing was short. She stepped inside but staggered, almost falling. Evan caught her gently. "Lyra, what happened to you?" She looked up at him with tired eyes, full of fear and sadness. He carried her to the soft cushion where she always sat and wrapped her in a blanket. Her body felt cold, too cold. Evan felt a deep ache in his chest. "You're hurt." "Someone hurt you," he whispered. She nodded weakly. Evan clenched his fists. Whatever was hunting her had gotten even closer. He wanted to help her, protect her, understand what was happening, but he had no idea where to start. Then, something unexpected happened. Lyra reached out and touched his forehead with her small glowing fingers. A soft blue light spread from her hand and wrapped around Evan's vision. He gasped as the room disappeared and a new world appeared before his eyes, bright, beautiful, and completely alien. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't imagining. He was seeing Lyra's memories. He saw a peaceful planet covered in silver forests and glowing rivers. Small creatures like Lyra lived there, gentle, quiet, full of light. They moved gracefully, spoke in musical tones, and lived together in harmony. Their world looked perfect. Then everything changed. A dark shadow fell from the sky. Massive ships, shaped like jagged claws, descended onto the planet. Their engines shook the ground. Their lights burned the forests. Creatures in sharp metallic armor marched out, capturing everything they could. Lyra's people ran. They screamed. They hid. But the enemy was faster, stronger, relentless. Evan saw Lyra, much younger, being carried by an older alien who glowed brightly, a protector, maybe a parent. They ran through burning trees, through shattered buildings, trying to escape the invaders' machines. But they didn't make it. The enemy captured almost everyone. Only a few escaped. Lyra was pushed into a small pod by the older alien, who smiled with tears in their eyes and closed the door. The pod launched into space just as the enemy soldiers broke through the doors. Lyra was the last child of her kind to escape. Evan's heart broke. He saw her pod land in the earth forest. He saw her step out alone, frightened, confused, searching for help. He saw her find his window the first night, drawn to the light, drawn to the sound of his voice reading a book. His stories reminded her of her protector's voice. To her, Evan wasn't just a human. He was safety. He was warmth. He was home. The vision faded. The blue light dissolved. Evan blinked, feeling tears in his eyes. Lyra lay in front of him, exhausted from sharing her memories. Her small body trembled. Evan gently held her hands. You lost everything," he whispered. "And you came to me because you were alone." She nodded slowly, her eyes filling with tears. "And the ones hunting you now, they're the same ones who destroyed your world, aren't they?" Lyra nodded again, this time harder. Evan felt anger burn inside him. This tiny alien child had suffered more than any child should. And now those monsters were searching Earth, ready to capture her. He could not let them. He placed his hand over her head gently. "I promise you, Lyra," he said, voice steady and warm, "I will not let them take you. You're safe with me. I'll protect you." Lyra looked at him with wide, glowing eyes full of trust. She touched his chest lightly, her way of saying, "Thank you." The wind outside grew stronger. A strange humming echoed through the forest once more. They were coming. But now, Evan understood the truth. Lyra wasn't just a lost child. She was a survivor. The last hope of her people. And he, an ordinary human, had become her shield. The real battle was about to begin. The night after Lyra shared her memories, Evan stayed awake for hours, replaying everything he had seen, her peaceful world, the terrible invasion, the desperate escape. He now understood why she trembled every time lights appeared in the forest. He understood why she clung to his stories like they were air. She had come from a place full of pain, and he was the first safe person she had found. But understanding her story also brought fear. If the hunters destroyed her entire planet, what would they do to Earth? Evan tried not to think about that. He focused on Lyra, who slept curled up on the cushion, her glow faint but steady. She needed rest. She needed safety. She needed him. As dawn approached, he finally closed his eyes. The next evening, Lyra arrived early. She climbed through the window quietly and walked straight to Evan with urgency. Her glow flickered rapidly, like a warning signal. She touched his arm and pointed toward the forest with shaking hands. "They're closer, aren't they?" Evan whispered. She nodded hard. Before Evan could say anything else, the house trembled. A low, heavy hum rolled through the ground, vibrating the walls. Evan froze. Lyra covered her ears. The humming grew louder, deeper, almost like a giant machine was sliding across the earth. Evan ran to the window, and then he saw it. Evan was a young man who lived alone in a small wooden house at the edge of a quiet forest. He liked peaceful evenings, warm tea, and reading books after work. His life was simple, slow, and almost the same every day. But one night, everything changed. It started with a soft tapping sound on his window. At first, he thought it was just the wind or maybe a branch touching the glass. He ignored it and continued reading. But the tapping came again, slow and steady, almost like someone was trying to get his attention. Evan walked to the window and looked outside, but he saw nothing. The forest was dark, and the moonlight barely touched the ground. He shrugged, closed the curtain, and went back to reading. The next night, the tapping returned. This time it was louder, clearer, as if a small hand was knocking gently. Evan felt a strange feeling in his chest, fear mixed with curiosity. He opened the curtain quickly, hoping to catch whoever was there. Again, nothing. Only shadows and the tall trees swaying in the night air. But on the third night, everything became different. The tapping started again, but now Evan felt something strange in the air. The sound had a rhythm, like someone trying to speak without words. His heart beat faster. Slowly, he walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside. His breath stopped. A tiny creature was standing on the windowsill. The creature was no bigger than a 5-year-old child. Its skin glowed softly with a pale blue light, like moonlight wrapped around a living body. Its eyes were bright and huge, full of fear, but also full of innocence. The creature did not move. It only looked at Evan as if it had been waiting for him. Evan froze. He did not know if he should scream, run, or speak. The tiny creature tilted its head slightly, studying his face. It didn't look dangerous. It looked lost. And scared. He whispered, "Hello?" The creature blinked, but did not speak. Instead, it stepped back a little, almost ready to run. Evan raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. His voice softened even more. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." For a moment, the two simply stared at each other, one human, one alien child, separated only by a thin piece of glass and the silence of the night. Then, before Evan could say anything else, the creature suddenly jumped off the windowsill and disappeared into the darkness. The next day, Evan could not stop thinking about what he saw. Was it real? Did he imagine it? He told himself it had to be his tired mind playing tricks. But when night came again, he found himself waiting near the window, listening carefully. And then it happened. The tapping returned, the same gentle rhythm. Evan rushed to the window, and there she was again, the tiny glowing alien. This time she did not run. She stepped forward, placed her small hand on the glass, and looked directly into Evan's eyes. Something inside Evan softened. He felt that she came to him because she needed help. Slowly, he opened the window. Cold air entered the room, and with it came the small creature. She stepped inside carefully, like she was entering a safe place for the first time. She stood in the middle of the room, trembling. Evan noticed she was extremely tired, maybe even frightened by something outside in the forest. He wanted to comfort her, but he did not know how. She didn't understand human actions. She didn't speak human words. So he did the one thing that felt natural to him. He began telling a story. A simple story about a brave little traveler who found a safe home after a long journey. The alien child sat on the floor, folded her legs, and listened closely. Her glowing skin slowly dimmed, becoming calm and peaceful. She did not look afraid anymore. When Evan finished the story, she touched his hand gently, a small, soft touch full of trust. Then she walked back to the window and slipped outside into the night. Evan felt something incredible that moment. This creature trusted him. She came to him for a reason, and deep inside, he knew. She would return again. She needed his stories. And maybe, just maybe, he needed her too. Evan woke up early the next morning with a strange warmth in his heart. He kept replaying last night in his mind, the tiny alien child. Her glowing blue skin, her quiet listening, and the gentle touch she gave him before leaving. It felt unreal, like a dream he didn't want to forget. He spent the entire day distracted. At work, his coworkers talked around him, but he barely heard them. While drinking tea, he stared at the forest through the window, wondering where she was. Was she safe? Was she hurt? Would she ever return? When evening came, he found himself checking the window again and again. He didn't want to seem desperate, but he felt like something important was about to happen. Something bigger than anything in his life. Night arrived quietly. No tapping came. Evan waited for 10 minutes. 20, a full hour. He felt a small ache in his chest. Maybe she left forever. Maybe she was never real. Maybe he would never see her again. He sighed and closed the curtains, but the moment he turned away, tap, tap, tap. Evan froze. His heart jumped. He opened the curtains quickly, and there she was again. The tiny alien, glowing even softer than before, stood on the windowsill. Her eyes were tired, almost like she had walked a long distance or escaped something frightening. Evan opened the window slowly. "You came back," he whispered. She nodded her small head. She still didn't speak, but he understood her answer. She trusted him. This time she entered without hesitation. She walked straight to the small cushion on the floor, the same spot where she sat last night. Then she looked up at Evan, waiting. He smiled. "You want another story?" She nodded again. Evan sat down on the floor near her, keeping a small distance so she wouldn't feel scared. He chose a story from his mind, a simple tale about a lonely star who found friendship after drifting alone for many years. As he spoke, the alien child relaxed again. Her trembling stopped. Her glow softened like a dim candle, warm and gentle. She sat with her arms around her knees, listening with full focus. Evan noticed something new today. The small creature wasn't just listening with her ears. It felt like she was listening with her heart. Her expression changed with each part of the story, as if she felt every emotion, more deeply than a human child ever could. When the story reached the part where the lonely star found a friend, the alien looked at Evan with big, shining eyes. It was almost as if she was trying to tell him something. something she couldn't say with words. When he finished the story, she reached out again and gently touched his hand, the same soft gesture as before. Only this time she kept her hand there a little longer. Evan felt a warmth spread through his chest. He smiled softly. "You're safe here," he said. "You can come anytime you want." For the first time, her face brightened with what looked like a tiny, shy smile. After that, she walked around the room, exploring like a curious child. She touched the books on the shelf, sniffed the cup of tea, and even tapped the lampshade to see how it reacted. She moved with innocent wonder, discovering human things as if seeing them for the first time. But suddenly, she stopped. Her glow flickered. She turned her head toward the forest window, her eyes widening in fear. Evan noticed immediately. "Are they looking for you?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, but her trembling returned. She hugged her arms tight around her small body. Evan understood. Someone or something was out there. Something that scared her deeply. Something she was running from. To calm her, Evan sat back down and began another short story without waiting for her to ask. The alien child slowly returned to the cushion, hugging the pillow he handed her. As the story continued, she relaxed again. The fear faded from her eyes. Her glow returned to a calm, soft blue. The moment Evan finished, she touched his knee gently, a new sign of trust. Then she walked back to the window. Before leaving, she looked at him for a long moment, almost as if saying thank you without speaking. Then she stepped outside and disappeared into the dark trees. Evan sat quietly after she left. He knew something important. This was no accident. This was no random meeting. The tiny alien child needed his stories. She needed his presence. She needed a safe place, and he realized something just as surprising. He needed her too. Their bond was growing. And the real story was only beginning. The next few days changed Evan's life completely. Every evening, he waited near the window, and every night, the tiny alien child returned. She came at the same time, always quiet, always tired, always eager to hear another story. Evan began to look forward to her visits more than anything else. He noticed small things about her. She liked warm light but hated loud sounds. She enjoyed listening to stories about brave heroes, but stories about loss made her glow dim and sad. She explored human objects slowly, like everything was new to her eyes. And sometimes when she sat close to him, he could feel a faint warmth coming from her glowing skin, like the soft light of a firefly. Its claws dug into the bark. Its mouth opened in a deep, hungry snarl. Evan froze. He couldn't run. He had nowhere to hide. The beast jumped down, shaking the ground. Evan shielded the child with his arms as the creature stepped closer. It lowered its head, ready to strike. The child pushed against Evan's chest, trying to get free from his arms. Evan shook his head, panicked. "No, stay behind me." But the child insisted. Her eyes glowed brighter, brighter than before. She slid out of his arms and landed gently on the ground. Her small legs shook, but she stood tall. She walked in front of him, a tiny figure facing a monster. The creature roared, its breath shaking the leaves. Evan reached for her, desperate to pull her back. But the child raised her hand gently, telling him to stop. Her calm expression made his heart ache. She wasn't doing this because she was brave. She was doing it because she had no choice. Her necklace began to glow, not softly like before, but fiercely. The light spread across her small body, turning her into a bright blue spark in the darkness. The creature snarled and stepped forward. The child closed her eyes. Evan felt the air shift. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly the child released a burst of blue light. It shot outward like a wave, silent but powerful, hitting the creature straight in the chest. The beast roared in pain, stumbling backward. The ground around them glowed with the child's energy, making the trees shake and the mist swirl like smoke. Evan shielded his face from the flash of light. When he looked again, he saw the tiny child struggling to stay on her feet. Every breath she took seemed heavy. The glow from her body flickered like a dying flame. The creature roared again, weaker this time. The light had burned its skin. It backed away, confused and frightened. The child raised her hands again, but this time, her glow was faint. She had used too much of her power. Her knees buckled. Evan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. Her tiny head rested against his arm, her breathing shallow and slow. Her necklace dimmed to a soft pulse. "Hey, hey! Stay with me," Evan whispered, voice shaking. The child opened her eyes weakly. She touched his cheek with her small hand, her skin cold. The message in her gaze was clear. "I had to do it. To save you." Evan felt pain deep in his heart. She had risked everything for him. A stranger. A human she didn't even know. The creature, now terrified of her power, ran back into the shadows. It wanted no part of the glowing child who could break the darkness with a single burst. Evan held her close, feeling her heartbeat slow. He couldn't allow her to use her power again. She would not survive. He stood up and whispered, "I promise. I won't let anything happen to you." The child blinked softly, trusting him once more. But deep inside, Evan knew this. Her power was rare, dangerous, and never meant to be used by someone so young. She had revealed a secret she never wanted to show, and now everything was about to change. Evan held the tiny alien child tightly in his arms as he walked through the forest. Her breathing was weak, but steady. She had her small head resting against his chest, eyes half closed. Her glow had faded almost completely, leaving only a faint shimmer around her skin. She was exhausted after using her power, and he knew she could not use it again without risking her life. He moved carefully, stepping over fallen branches and avoiding loud noises. The creature was still somewhere in the forest, but for now, the night was quiet. Too quiet. Every step felt heavy, every shadow felt alive. But Evan didn't care about the danger anymore. His mind was only focused on keeping the child safe. The little girl lifted her hand weakly and touched his jacket. She hummed a soft note, a sound that usually meant warning, but this time it wasn't sharp. It was gentle, calm, a sign that she trusted him. Evan looked down at her. "I'm here. I won't leave you," he whispered. Her tiny fingers curled lightly around his jacket, as if holding onto his promise. They moved deeper into the forest, following the path the child had shown earlier. Evan wasn't sure where it led, but he trusted her senses more than his own. With each step, he felt more connected to her, this small, fragile life he had met only hours ago, yet now felt deeply responsible for. He couldn't stop thinking about the courage she'd shown. How she faced a monster without fear. How she used her power even though it hurt her. How she chose to protect him, a complete stranger. It didn't make sense. No child should have that kind of burden. No child should have to fight. Evan wished he could take her pain away. After a while, the forest began to change. The air was warmer here, the mist thinner, and tiny glowing insects floated around like drifting stars. The little girl blinked softly, her eyes reacting to the gentle lights. She lifted a weak hand, and one of the insects landed on her palm, glowing softly. For a moment, she smiled, a small, tired smile, but a real one. It made Evan's chest tighten. He hadn't seen her smile before. It reminded him that she was just a child. A child who wanted peace, not fear. "Do you live near here?" Evan asked quietly. The child looked up at him, then pointed forward. Evan followed her gesture. In the distance, he saw a dim blue glow, almost like a hidden clearing. He walked toward it, hoping she was guiding him to safety. But when they reached the glowing area, he realized it wasn't a village or shelter. It was a small fountain-like formation made from glowing stones. A natural energy source. The air around it hummed softly. The child reached out her hand toward the stones. Her glow pulsed faintly in response. Evan gently placed her down beside the formation. She touched one stone with her fingertips. The stone brightened, and energy flowed through her like a warm breath. Her body relaxed. Her glow became a little stronger. She opened her eyes fully for the first time since she collapsed. Evan exhaled in relief. "You're healing," he whispered. The child nodded slowly. She sat beside the stones, breathing calmly as they restored her strength. Evan sat next to her, watching the trees carefully. For a while, neither of them spoke. She rested her small head against his arm. Evan looked down and felt an unexpected warmth spread through him. In the middle of fear, in the middle of danger, a bond had formed, not by choice, but by courage. The child then touched his hand and made a series of soft hums, a pattern he hadn't heard before. She pointed to her heart, then to his, then brought her hands together. Evan understood instantly. She was telling him, "We are connected now." He felt a lump in his throat. "I'll protect you too," he said softly. Her eyes glowed warmly. The fear that had once filled them was now replaced with trust, deep, real trust. She leaned lightly against him, comforted by his presence, but their peace didn't last long. A sudden gust of wind shook the trees. The forest lights dimmed. The child tensed again, her glow flickering. Evan immediately stood up, alert. "You sense something," he said. She nodded. Then she pointed behind them, not in fear, but in urgency. Something was coming. Something different. Something bigger than the creature they had faced before. Evan lifted her into his arms again. She held onto him tightly, her glow now steady and strong, not from power, but from determination. Their bond had changed everything. Whatever waited ahead, they would face it together. Evan held the tiny alien child close as he stepped away from the glowing stones. Her strength had returned a little, but she was still tired. Her small arms were wrapped around his neck once again, and her glowing blue eyes stayed alert, watching the shadows as the wind grew colder. The trees shook softly, whispering warnings he could not understand. But the child understood everything. She pressed her small hand against his chest, urging him to move faster. Whatever was coming now was not the same creature they had escaped before. This presence was heavier, older, stronger. Evan felt it too, a strange vibration in the ground, soft but growing. He whispered, "Is something else out there?" The child nodded, her eyes full of worry, yet glowing with determination. He followed her guidance through the forest, until they reached a large open clearing. The clearing felt wrong. The air was thicker. The sky above them flickered with faint green light. Something powerful was near. The child pushed against Evan's chest, signaling him to put her down. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. She nodded again, more firmly this time. He gently placed her on the ground. Her tiny legs wobbled, but she remained standing. She looked ahead, scanning the field. Her necklace pulsed steadily now, not with fear but with purpose. Evan could sense that she knew exactly what was coming. A deep rumble rolled across the ground. Then another, and another. Trees bent slightly as something large approached. Not running like the earlier creature, this one walked with controlled strength, each step shaking the earth. The child stepped in front of Evan again, small and brave. Her glow brightened even though her body trembled. Finally, the figure emerged from the shadows. It was enormous, twice the size of the previous monster. Its dark skin was covered in jagged plates, and its eyes burned with a deeper red. It looked like a creature born from ancient nightmares. Its claws sank into the soil as it studied them. Evan felt fear freeze every part of him. But the tiny child stepped forward. The huge beast growled. Not at Evan, but at her. The child lifted her trembling hands. Her glow began to spread again, but Evan could see the strain on her face. Using her power this soon was dangerous. She had barely recovered. "No, stop," Evan whispered, stepping closer. "It will hurt you again." She looked back at him with soft eyes, full of kindness, full of love, and shook her head. This was her choice, her destiny. She pointed at him, then at herself, then at the beast, and Evan understood her message. If I do not stop it, it will destroy you. The bond between them tightened in his chest. He wanted to grab her, protect her, run away with her, anything to keep her safe. But he couldn't. She had already chosen her path. The beast roared and charged toward them. The child closed her eyes and raised both hands. Her small body glowed so brightly, it lit up the entire clearing. The air vibrated with energy. Her necklace shone like a star. Evan felt the pressure of her power pushing outward. The light grew stronger and stronger until it was almost blinding. The beast lunged. The child released everything she had left. A shockwave burst from her tiny body, a brilliant blue wave that shook the trees, bent the grass, and cut through the darkness like lightning. The beast crashed backward, thrown across the clearing. It screamed in pain as the light burned its skin. It tried to stand, but it couldn't. The wave had struck its core. After struggling for a moment, the beast collapsed and lay still. The forest fell silent. The light around the child flickered, then faded completely. Her knees buckled. Evan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. She was cold, too cold. Her tiny eyes opened weakly, glowing only faintly now. She looked up at him with a fragile smile, a smile that told him she was glad he was safe. No, stay with me, Evan whispered, voice shaking. She lifted her hand slowly and touched his face one last time. Her touch was soft and warm, like the glow she used to carry. Her eyes said everything. You are safe. Because of me, and now, humanity must protect my kind too. With her last bit of strength, she pressed her head gently against his chest, and then her glow faded into darkness. Evan held her close, tears falling silently. The little girl who had stood between him and danger. The child who fought monsters. The child who trusted him with her life. She had changed everything. Hours later, when rescue teams arrived and heard Evan's story, the truth spread across planets. Her courage became a symbol. Her sacrifice opened the first real path to peace. Between humans and her species, statues were built in her honor. Songs were written about her bravery. Children across galaxies learned her name, but Evan remembered her not as a hero, not as a legend, but as a small child with glowing eyes, who had loved deeply and protected fiercely. A tiny child whose courage changed the fate of two worlds forever.